Should I do the salute or the peace sign, you know? Like, might have to run a little A/B test on the thumbnail to see which one performs better. The great part about, I guess, gaining new subs or like new people finding the channel every year is that I can pull the exact same trick and fool a new audience of people. So like people who've been watching me since last year, you know what I mean? Y'all might already know what's up with these little end of the year jump scare videos. But those of you who just got on this year, you know what I mean? You got your little jump scare that made it look like I'm deleting the channel. Or maybe a jump happiness. Maybe you hate me. Maybe you don't want to see me anymore. But, man, these be some yapping ass videos, bro. But, we're here. The end of the year, 2024 final wrap up yap video. My camera's not plugged into anything, right? So my battery will die within an hour. And I'm going to try to use that as a timer because I can yap for a long time. And so I'm going to try to use that camera, that built-in battery power as a timer to keep me on track. Like even right now, we're already, 2 minutes into the recording. I haven't gotten into it yet. Damn, 90% of the viewers probably stopped watching, and that's cool. That's kind of what happens with these sorts of videos. But for those of y'all that are still here, welcome. I mean, you're probably watching this in early 2025. Right now, as I'm recording this, it is December 31st, like 12 p.m. where I'm at. And I'm probably going to try to do some like corny shit, you know, have the video be uploaded like right when the new year strikes strikes 12, but we'll see how it ends up. For the past 2 months, basically since the election, the United States presidential election, I have spent a little bit of my spare time going back and watching my videos from this past year, starting with the last video I posted last year, which was basically last year's version of this video, and ending with, you know, I guess my most recent video, which was uploaded yesterday at the time I'm recording this. And my goal in doing that was, I guess, seeing what were the goals that I set for 2024 at the end of 2023. And I wanted to watch each of my videos to kind of remind myself how the year went and kind of see if I had accomplished those goals to any degree. So, did I accomplish the goals I set out for myself at the end of 2023? No. But there's a big old asterisk next to that no. There's a caveat to that no, if you will. At the end of 2023, I was... I mean, the channel was doing well, right? The channel had grown a lot over 2023, thanks to like the Demon Slayer and the Jujutsu Kaisen videos. And at the end of 2023, despite being slightly burnt out of the formula that I was using in 2023, I had said, you know what? I'm going to just lock in and bite the bullet. The formula works, and I'm going to just keep it pushing with that. And sort of the goals I set for myself at the end of 2023 were centered around doing just that. Now I'm finally starting to like gain my talking mojo, if you could tell. Because allergies been fucking me up this past week. Like, they've been doing me dirty. I don't know if you can tell my voice isn't as loud or as spry as it usually may be. Yeah, bro, them allergies are doing me dusty. I don't know if it's like the change in climate since I went from Pittsburgh, where I'm staying at, you know, the past couple months, back to Maryland, which is home, over to now in Texas, which is my girlfriend's apartment. You know what I mean? Those of y'all who were here for the manga arc might recognize this background. Niggas might fuck around, you know, and start grabbing the mic like this, talking about Babel. Nah. Sorry, Babel fans. But we'll talk about all that in a bit. At the end of 2023, the goals I set were set in the mindset that I was going to continue creating and producing content how I did in 2023. Which was mainly just short weekly reviews about seasonal anime. But at the end of 2023, and this is sort of why I didn't talk about the end of the Shibuya incident arc, if you know, some of y'all may remember that. At the end of 2023, I was just burnt out of making short videos about seasonal anime, bro. I mean, at that point, I had been doing it for basically from 2021 through 2023. So only 2 years, really, which isn't that long now that I think about it, but it's long for me. Okay, I can't really focus on stuff that long. But almost immediately after setting those goals for myself of like, oh, 6 videos per month and, you know, sticking with the seasonal stuff. Basically, at that point, I was just telling myself to like push through it. And I tried to, right? After JJK, Solo Leveling came out, and that was kind of like the progression of like the seasonal hype bubble that goes from show to show, season to season. I mean, it dies out some seasons, but you know, in that particular year, or that particular stretch, sort of the seasonal hype bubble went from Demon Slayer, which I, you know, rode that wave, onto JJK, which I rode that wave, and then the progression from there was on the Solo Leveling. And I started making a Solo Leveling vid. Some of y'all might even remember, you know, I put up like stream highlights of me watching Solo Leveling on the second channel. But ultimately, as I was writing this Solo Leveling video, and low-key, I was like literally sitting right here writing it, right? Because it was over winter break, and so I was staying at my girlfriend's place, as I am right now. I was like sitting like right here, right there writing it. And I was just like, I can't do this, bro. Like, I don't care about this show, and I'm not finna sit here and roleplay like I do. Not to say I dislike Solo Leveling. You know, I didn't care to have my enjoyment of this show interrupted by like content brain, and like while I'm watching the show, having to think about like, oh, I'm gonna talk about this, this, and this. Like, it just kind of, making these videos has forever like brain rotted my brain into like, I can't really watch anything now, especially anime. Other stuff I can kind of watch, and I'm getting better with it, but anime is difficult for me to watch without my brain immediately trying to like start writing scripts in my head rather, and just, you know what I mean, like content demon brain rot. And I guess in the grand scheme of like content demonics, like this is like a mild case, right? Because you got like content demons out there who like, you know, run around in public just like being a nuisance, making people's life worse, all because they have that little content monkey on their shoulder. And so, you know, not being able to watch certain shows at certain times is relatively mild of a symptom to have. Boy, am I yapping. Anyway, I was like, yeah, I don't feel like talking about Solo Leveling. And on top of that, I don't feel like talking about what I don't feel like talking about. I feel like talking about stuff that actually genuinely interests me in the current moment. Just like right now in the current moment, what genuinely interests me is a glass of water because my mouth is getting dry. I'll be right back. And so the series that interested me at the time, late December, early January, was a series that I had read last year in 2023 called 𝙏𝙖𝙡. And that kind of, I guess, brings us into, you know, phase 2 of this video, where I kind of want to just kind of look at my channel page, right? Like look at these videos. Actually, I'm gonna start a recording so that y'all can see it too. But yeah, as you can see here, the first video off of last year's version of this video was the 𝙏𝙖𝙡 video. The 𝙏𝙖𝙡 video, you know, it started off slow because, you know, it was just something new for my channel at the time, but it ended up performing relatively well for, you know, a video about an obscure scene in anime. Not obscure, I mean obscure in the West, an obscure scene in anime that no one really cared about besides myself. And so from there I was like, okay, this is good. You know, the 𝙏𝙖𝙡 video ended up doing better than a lot of my later era JJK videos, and this was a good sign for me. Honestly, I think this 𝙏𝙢 video performing the way it did kind of set the tone for this year, because I can imagine if that video underperformed, this channel screen that you're looking at right now might have looked a lot different, because that 𝙏𝙢 video sort of gave me it bolstered my courage in experimentation, if that makes any sense. And it set that tone for the year where, you know, I was working towards not being afraid of experimenting and not being afraid of trying new things, and, you know, not directly all the time playing the algorithm game. But that isn't to say I didn't, you know, run into issues with that confidence I had gained, because so I posted the 𝙏𝙢 video, does well, surprisingly well, does good even, great even, I would say great relative to what it was. Post the second one, it didn't do as well, you know, I think it tapered off at about 70 70K views. And this is going to sort of go into a repeating pattern that I noticed this year, but more on that later. Post the Mujina Into the Deep video, which, you know, now it's doing solid. 42K views for, again, what is a relatively not cared about anime in the grand scheme of things, or manga rather. A relatively not cared about manga that I don't believe is even officially translated in the grand scheme of things. Or it might be, I think it is actually. 42K isn't bad, but at the time, it was about half this, and I'm not gonna lie, I got scared, bruh. The fear overtook me. This stretch of videos right here took about 2 months, and I basically couldn't, I knew that I couldn't afford to take a long time on videos that weren't going to perform the way I wanted to if I wanted to take YouTube as seriously as I'm working towards taking it. And so I switched the flow up, and this is kind of a repeating pattern that you'll see this year, where I switch the flow up, get scared, and then, you know, switch the flow up again, see some success, get scared, but we'll get to that. I was really into free run, right? And this video in particular, right? This free run video. There are only a few videos on this channel that I can point to where the show inspired the video. Normally, when I'm making a video on something, the thought process is, I need to make a video. What's a show I can watch to make the video on? Boom, let's make the video. With these particular videos, and it actually happens to align with a lot of my better performing videos. So like with the Rengoku video, the My Dress Up Darling video, Bow the Visitor, kind of, sort of, Free Run. A lot of those shows I watched just out of my own personal enjoyment, not wanting to make videos. And I was inspired to make a video based off of how the show touched me. Pause. But yeah, the free run video, you know, uploaded that, did decent at first. Now it's doing pretty well. I took a whole month to work on these 4 videos and then posted them back to back to back to back to see how that would work algorithmically, you know, just that sort of, I guess, assaulting the algorithm with consistency just to see how that worked. And they weren't performing this well at first, but after tweaking the thumbnails and titles and so on and so forth, particularly with the Bow the Visitor video. Yeah, this taught me the importance of titles and thumbnails, which I really tried to lock on with this year. And, you know, I think that kind of, it made my goal of wanting to create videos on more obscure shows more possible. But that was not without my fair share of L's. And this brings us into this stretch of videos right here, which, I mean, you know, frankly put, underperformed. And having these videos perform, these 3 videos perform as they did, coming off of the high that was these 4 videos overperforming, it was a, you know, it was a drop off of a cliff, right? Like, you know, YouTube has a way of like making you feel like you're goddamn, you know, super genius, Mr. Algorithm hacker boy when you're up, and then when you're down, you feel like you're, I don't know, a glass of water or whatever. What? But yeah, these 3 videos underperforming, again, similar to when this Mujina video underperformed, kind of, you know, shook me up a little bit, and it made me like, all right, let's switch the flow up. And so again, you're seeing this repeating pattern of me kind of getting scared a little bit, losing confidence, and then switching the flow up. But this kicked us off into the manga arc, which now that I'm looking at it on the channel, wasn't as long as I remember, even though it felt longer. I think it felt longer just because at this point I was really like nervous about where the channel was going and sort of insecure about where the channel was going. And so I guess this arc felt longer than it was. But let's talk about this arc. The Babel arc, I'm gonna just call it the Babel arc instead of the manga arc, because let's call it how it is. The lasting impact on this channel of this arc is niggas like this nigga right here who still, I can't see it. Yeah, who still want the goddamn Babel video, who still want me to finish Babel. It's not something that I'm against doing. But you know what? Let me talk about that right now, actually. The thing about Babel and manga videos in general, and kind of why I pivoted away from that, is because manga is a lot more slow paced than anime. What I was finding was that it was just too slow paced, honestly. Like, I think I calculated like for 𝙏𝙖𝙡 something around 30 videos or something. For Babel, I think it was like a cool dozen. And it just wasn't something that I was willing to dedicate that time to, because I knew if I did that and just kind of spammed the same way I had done with like JJK, you know, I would be walking down the same road that I did with JJK, where I just burnt myself out of content talking about the same series over and over. With that said, I do want to finish Babel, and I do want to be able to talk about manga in the same complete way that I've been talking about anime lately. And so yeah, I guess a mini goal that I've set for myself for 25 is you know, hopefully getting out a manga video. It might be Babel, where I talk about the entire manga plot, but that'll just take a lot of brain power in figuring out how I want to do that. Because the thing with me with these longer videos is that I do really like including as much of the plot as I can, because I feel like that's where, you know, the stories really shine. Yeah, with that said, I think the Babel arc, even though performance wise it wasn't crazy, it did end up becoming like sort of a, I feel like it's pretentious or egotistical to say cult classic, because again, in the grand scheme of the internet, no one cares about these fucking videos. But at least within the purview of what this channel is, you know, there's a little cult of Babel that really wants that story to come back. And I hopefully kind of want to deliver, because it is a great story. I love that story. I think it's, I mean, that shit was made in 2006, bro. That shit was ahead of its time. But despite that, when I got to this Babel video right here, and I saw the performance wasn't doing as great as I would have hoped, I was like, okay, let's switch it up. And this was, you know, kind of coming into August. And so the latter half of the year now, or the latter third of the year, really, August, September, October, November, December, 1, 2, I mean, yeah, latter half. These next two videos were like the filler of all filler. I didn't know what I wanted to do with the channel at this point. I was kind of frazzled. I was starting grad school. I was getting assaulted by that brand new Pittsburgh rent, and I was just like, okay, I need to get a video out, regardless of what it is, because I'm not going to let myself sit and just rot. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to let myself get into a tizzy where it ends up like, you know, 2022, where I'm just so sick of uploading that I just didn't upload, you know? And I think that's this gap right here. These two videos, I liked them for what they were. I was trying something new, you know, me on camera running around my little studio apartment. You know, it was cool for what it was. But around this time, I was like, okay, now it's time to lock in, and I have a plan. I had a plan. So this video right here, the undisputed most successful video of this year, arguably on this channel. I mean, obviously number wise, it has quite, you know, a couple 100,000 to go before it surpasses the Rengoku video. But I think if we're looking at just the time it took to reach this number right here, it's the undisputed, I don't even want to call it the GOAT of this channel, but it's the best performing video of this channel. So I had seen Ninja Scroll, and I knew I wanted to talk about it, but I knew niggas was not going to give a fuck about Ninja Scroll if I just said, you know, this Ninja Scroll video is cool, or whatever. You know, if I titled the thumbnail and video, or if I titled the video and thumbnail around Ninja Scroll, this video would not have performed as well as it did. Demon Slayer on this channel, and I mean, all you have to do is look at the popular page. Demon Slayer is the most successful series on this channel, pretty repeatably, right? This channel, I mean, it blew up off Demon Slayer, off the Rengoku video, or, you know, blew up relative to what my career on YouTube had been before. And Demon Slayer has kind of just always been there for this channel whenever I needed a stimulus package, i.e. this video right here. And so my plan was, the Hashira training arc had come out during Babel summer, and I just didn't talk about it because I was on my Babel shit. But my plan was I was going to talk about the Hashira training arc, you know, gather momentum from that, and then drop this Ninja Scroll video where I lied in the title and thumbnail and made it look like the OG Demon Slayer. Basically what I did here, right? And I took a lot of time, about a month, working on this Ninja Scroll video. because it was sort of the first video in this manner that I was attempting. And I think it still holds the title. Well, no, in light of the first 𝙏𝙖 𝙡𝙠 video, it no longer holds that title. But at the time, it was by far the longest individual video on this channel that wasn't a compilation of smaller videos. And so I dropped this video, and mainly because of the title and thumbnail, really, it ended up performing in a manner in which far exceeded my expectations, far exceeded the expectation of the sponsor that was on that video, which I'm a little salty about because, anywho. And I noticed a lot of my contemporaries were working with longer videos at the time as well. And so I was like, okay, this is where I'm focusing my efforts. And I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna do this, I might as well say fuck it and talk about whatever fucking series I want, right? Because Ninja Scroll, no one really cared. Well, Ninja Scroll is weird. I thought no one cared about it, right? I thought I was the only nigga who gave a fuck about Ninja Scroll. But it turns out, and I'm seeing this in the comments of the video, this anime is sort of a cult classic in itself. And so that was cool. I think that helped the video a lot. But, Phantom Quest Corp, 𝙏𝙖 𝙡𝙠, RAAAGH Z more recently, all those are series that no one broadly gives a fuck about. Seeing these performances on those videos, well, I don't know how this one's gonna do yet. Pray for this video. You know what I'm saying? Prayers up that this junk does well. But with seeing how Ninja Scroll, Sonic, Phantom Quest Corp, and 𝙏𝙖 𝙡𝙠 Part 1 performed was very validating or confidence boosting. It just felt good, I guess, after a year of kind of bouncing around, trying to get into my flow. Finally during this latter fourth of the year, October, November, December, to finally sort of catch a flow. We don't talk about 𝙏𝙖 𝙡𝙠 Part 2. It still could, blow. But one thing I've learned this year, if nothing else, is that Part 2s just aren't the move. Part 2s only work in if a series is currently airing and you're doing episodic, these are just my insights now from doing this for a long time. But Part 2s mainly only work if you're working episodically. If a series has a pre-established fan base that's willing to, just watch content on that show over and over again. But if you're talking about a show like 𝙏𝙖 𝙡𝙠, where, as a creator, you have to do the heavy lifting and getting people to even click the video, Part 2 is not in your best interest. And I think that's kind of one of the big takeaways from this year. I think I've said generally all I wanted to say about, bringing y'all through my mindset of the year. And so I guess that brings me into sort of the final section of this video, where I talk about moving forward. I'm not disappointed. I have no issues with where my channel is right now. But as I was saying a few seconds ago, when you talk about 90s Sonic OVAs, Phantom Quest Corps, and 𝙏𝙖 𝙡𝙠, you do a lot of heavy lifting as a creator in packaging these videos in a way to get people to care about them. Sometimes that heavy lifting works, like it did in these videos, and sometimes, like it did in 𝙏𝙖 𝙡𝙠 Part 2, it doesn't. RAAAGH Z, we'll see. And I think moving into next year, what I really want to do, I want to kind of find that balance between what I was doing this year and what I had done in prior years, where I was playing the game a bit more and focused a bit more on what was best for the channel from an algorithmic perspective. I've grown a distaste for making seasonal videos because I think I've just done it for so long. Some may implicate me in sort of the downfall of the seasonal anime discourse, just because of how much I milked that shit. And you know what? If that's the case, I'll own that, bro. I'll own that. But I think what I want to do next year, I think there's a large gradient between, talking about the hottest new, what's hot right now. We're switching into a new season. I guess 𝙏𝙠 is over, but there's a large gradient between talking about, the hottest, most hypest new series that has all the discourse on all the internet around it, and, some show you scraped out of the bottom of my anime list that no one gives a fuck about. There's a large gradient of shows that, have fan bases that are smaller, but, sort of small but mighty, and, can still give me something to springboard off of, right? because trying to market the Kimonozumes and Phantom Quest Corps of the world, it's a challenge. It's a fun challenge, but for the overall sustainability of this channel and, you know, me wanting to take it to the next level next year, it's just probably not in my best interest at the very moment to do so. And, you know, for those of y'all all in my comments, damn, this nigga done had 5 thumbnails in 5 hours. Like, yeah, bro, I dead gotta experiment with what works and how to market these series because no one cares about them but me. And so, complaining aside, moving into next year, I want to sort of go to series that have fan bases and can kind of stand on their own 2 feet a little bit, but, you know, maybe they were forgotten with time, or, you know, maybe it was just one season back in like 2012 that no one really talks about anymore, and the fan base is still there, people still like it, and it's still a good story. It's just kind of lost to time. And so, you know, next year I kind of want to find that median of like hype, established stories, and you know, still stuff that can kind of garner some intrigue, or like I'm not necessarily talking about something that's already been talked to death, or talking about seasonals. And yeah, that's where my head's at now. I think I want to dedicate like 3/4 of my content to those sorts of videos, and then maybe like a fifth of my content to that really deep underground type stuff that no one gives a fuck about, the 𝙏𝙖𝙡𝙠s of the world, and the, you know, the Phantom Quest Corp type shit. I guess to conclude, on a positive note, a very hopeful note actually, as I'm thinking about it, I'm realizing that this is the first year that I'm moving into YouTube with an entirely optimistic and hopeful frame of mind. You know, at the end of 2021, I was frustrated because I was still getting 30 views, and, you know, I was still at the beginning of my journey, or the end of 2020 rather. At the end of 2021, I was frustrated because I was just burnt out. I think school and content, you know, balancing those two things wasn't something I was the best at. At the end of 2022, I was just burnt out of YouTube in general. That's why we don't even have one of these yearly wrap-up videos for 2022. At the end of 2023, I was burnt out of kind of, you know, playing the algorithm game all the time and talking about things that didn't particularly interest me at the moment. And at the end of 2024, however, I just feel hopeful and optimistic and proud and not burnt out. I feel excited to, you know, start working with the improved work. I'm excited to make content for 2025. I know what I want to do going into 2025. And, you know, this is just the first time I feel fully, mostly positive about where this channel is going coming into a new year. And so, yeah, it feels good. Thank you all for your support throughout this year. I really can't thank y'all enough. Probably should have done that to begin the video, but, you know, just started yapping. Oh yeah, shout out to God. We got to shout out God. You know, I probably should have thrown that at the beginning of the video too. So, you know, now my channel probably going to fail because I forgot to shout out God, but it's whatever. No, I'm not even going to put that out there, bro. I'm not even going to. I'm yapping. I'll see y'all. I'll see y'all soon.